In this video, I'm doing the end of season maintenance on my RZT L Cub Cadet 54 inch. It's got 371 hours on it. It's 5 years old. You know, God gave us the ability to learn to do a lot of different things, but to take that ability and make it into a gift or make it into a talent, you have to practice, you have to study. It's very important to be able to take care of your own equipment. Not only is it less expensive, but also you learn something, you feel better about yourself, you feel better about using the equipment that you're maintaining. If you watch the video, you'll see how bad shape this was in. It was definitely at the end of the season. It needed a lot of work. So if you follow me through this video, you'll be able to see the major things. Oh, one thing I forgot was deck leveling, but maybe I'll make another video to show that. Take care, learn something, and enjoy. Please subscribe. Well, here's the Cub Cadet, zero turned. Bringing it into our shop now to do the annual maintenance. I want to say it's 5 years old. It's a RZTL 54-inch deck. I'll be changing out the oil in the filter, the air filter, the blades. I have a back tire that leaks. I have to pump up about once a week. I have a front tire. One of the front tires has a very small leak in it. I have to pump it up a little bit about once every 6 weeks or so. It has 371 hours on it. I'll try and video what I can on it. And there's my wife's director chair. So when she comes in and watches me do things, she sits there and sort of directs me and gives me a hand once in a while as I need it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is pull the deck. So first I'll pull the side pins on each side, and then I'll release the clip pin in the front with the bar that holds up the front end of it, and then I'll move it back to relax the belt and pull the belt off the back pulley. All right, let it go. So let's see what I've got. I've got a rag, always make a mess. I have a quart of 30 weight oil, SAE 30, and another quart. I think it only takes one, but just to be on the safe side, I've got two. When I bought the oil filter, it was easier just to go ahead and buy, you want to check it out? It was easier to go ahead and just buy two at the same time. That way I have one for the next time. It has a plastic seal over it to keep it clean, so I can just put it on the shelf. So I have two of these, an oil drain bucket. Now this unit has a drain line connected to the crankcase and coming out the bottom and the back here. This tube, this piece right here coming out the bottom, and you can see the tube, and you can see the tube back over here. That's my oil drain tube right there coming out the bottom. So you don't have to use a siphon or anything to suck the oil out. The oil filter. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the oil filter down there. Oh yeah, and it's cruddy. Ooh, everything's cruddy. So now I have an epoxy floor. If I do spill oil on the floor, it's not a biggie. I'll just let the thing go down in there. It's coming out slow. One thing I really like about this Cub Cadet is I have the common parts list right there. Yeah, and normally it's much dirtier than that, but I spit on it and wiped it off with a rag. In the background there, you see my old 1953 Ford. It's a project I started working on several years ago, and then I sort of stopped. I'll be doing it as my next project. Going ahead, I drove it around a little bit, but I need to go ahead and pull the engine, redo all the interior, redo the outside. I've got a big dent. This is still draining down here. And you can see the deck is pretty dirty. I'll need to take the covers off, clean everything on that. Might as well just wash the whole deck, I guess. Make sure it's good and clean. These clean out ports, I don't know, there's a question about whether they're really useful or not. On this 3-blade model, there are 2 clean out ports. There's one right here also on the other side, one on the right, one on the left. The way that you're supposed to do that is supposed to hook a water hose up to it, put it in gear, run the blades, and let the blades hit the water and just sling it all over the place. It's supposed to wash out everything on the underside of the deck. Well, it looks like the oil has finally quit dripping. And the plug has the red sealant around there, Permatex or something like that on there to the plug. So I can go ahead and start to screw this back in. Need to make sure I tighten up my oil plug. Don't want to forget that. I have actually before, years ago, changed oil, forgot to put the plug back in. So as soon as I start putting oil in, oil starts running out. So that was a mistake I won't make again. All right, that's the oil's been drained. Now I need to remove the filter. Oh, it's quite a bit of oil there. I don't have an oil disposal thing to use the oil in right now. So for the moment, I'm going to go ahead and put some oil dry in there. Years ago, we called this kitty litter. That will soak up all the oil. I may have to put a little bit more in there. Makes it easier to handle and keeps me from making a spill in the shop. I hope you can see in here. It's almost impossible to see the oil filter, especially because it's black and it's down in the shadow. But I know when I pull the oil filter out, it's going to try and leak a little bit. So I want to try and prevent as much of that as I can. Put a rag down here underneath it. What's a close fit? And now I'm going to try and unscrew it with my hands. Oh, there it comes. Get it out. I need to turn it up real quick so it doesn't pour out what's left in there. Having that long drain time, allowing the oil to drain for a long time really helps. What things got a lot of screwing to get it off. Come on, you ought to be off by now. There it is. Got it. Yeah. Another rag right there. That's the old filter. Pop the cover on it. Just put a little bit of oil film on the seal so I don't drag it as I try and snug it up. There we go. See if I can put this one on there. Screw it on. And it starts screwing on, real lined up real easy. All right, snug. A little tight, a little tightening in there. That's good and snug. Hopefully it's tight enough. Yeah, I got about another 1/16 of a turn there with the hands. So that should be plenty good. Now I'll be ready to put in the new oil. Well, I've just put 1 quart of oil in, and it's not even showing up on the stick, I don't think. Let me see. Yeah, it's barely touching the tip of the stick right now, well below the low level. And I know the oil filter that I just put on there is empty, so when I crank it up, it's going to pump oil into that as well, and dropping my oil level a little bit more. Let me get a second quart. All right, about half of this one in there. I can see on the line over here on the side, it's close to half. There, it's about half there. And I spilled a little bit. Well, let me wipe this off, stick it back down in there and see if it shows it's coming up any. Yeah, I'm just above low level right now. Yeah, it probably takes a full 2 quarts. Let me put some more in. Yeah, it's in the halfway between the low and the full. That's good enough right now to be able to crank it up. That's about 1 3/4 quarts. Well, let's see about this air filter. I'm sure it's shot because I already took off the rubber piece the other day. I said, okay, let me order some parts. Yep, buddy, that's okay. There's a new air intake filter. Oh, nice snug fit by itself. So there's not going to be any leakage down there anywhere around that. Draw first and put it on. Make sure I cover all the fin area right where it's supposed to be. That looks pretty good. Okay, put it back on. Get back on there. There. Yeah, that's a good snug fit. There won't be any leakage getting into that engine. Well, the next thing I want to do is replace the fuel filter. But this kit, let me show you, comes with the kit that I bought. It comes with 2 sets of filters, 2 fuel filters. It comes with a fuel switch, and it also comes with 6 of these little hose clamps. So as far as I'm concerned, the 2 fuel filters, one is now, one is later. And the same thing with the air filter. I just put 1 air filter on with the foam rubber outside piece, and I have another one also as a backup as a spare, so that's for later as well. And I like the idea of using a fuel switch there, so I can turn the fuel off, because if you see right now, there is no fuel switch. You can see my fuel line right there with the fuel filter in the middle. This goes around to the carburetor side, and this tube here, it comes up and goes to the bottom of the tank. Now I know I've got a couple of quarts of at least of gasoline in the tank. Once I take the hose loose from the fuel filter, if I don't get the tip of the hose up above the level of gasoline in the tank, then it's going to start siphoning out. Also, I want to take the top cover off. So these are 5/16 screws in here. Take this one out right quick. A little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. And I found another one behind the air filter. That's another plastic screw. Came out real quick and easy. Come up. And another one over here. So there's 7 screws here. 3 of them are plastic to plastic, and they're inside under the cover with the air filter. Now, since I have the top cover loose, I need to take the vacuum line off right here. Oh, come off. Atmosphere line. There it goes. Break loose. I'll start to pull you up a little bit. This is a tough little vacuum hose, but be careful taking it off that you don't damage it. It provides the vacuum pulse that operates the diaphragm fuel pump above. If it's damaged, you may not be able to get fuel from the tank to your carburetors. There we go. That's loose. All right, I have the vacuum line loose. Now let me take the carburetor feed line loose. There, it's off. Now as I raise this up, hopefully I'll be able to raise the fuel line from the gas tank up high enough. I'll get out of this clip. There, so I can set this up here. All right, now that I have this raised up, this is now above, it's above the level of the tank, because the level of the tank is way down here somewhere. But when I take this loose, I will get a little bit of leakage. Let me get something to put this dripping gasoline into. Give it a little bit of help here. Yeah, that's coming off now. Here we go. Let the gasoline run down into this. If there's going to be any dripping. Apparently there's not. Okay, let me take the next piece off. So I think what I want to do is I want to take the fuel filter and this hose off at the same time. And where this connection is right here, I want to put in the gas shutoff valve. Let's see, and there is, okay, barely can see it. There is a direction of flow showing. So this should be the tank side over here. Just have to make sure I put it in that way when I put it in. Boy, that's really dirty too. Actually, I think what I'll do is I'll cut it here, and then I'll put my gas valve in. Well, I thought I'd go ahead and just replace that tube. This is the old filter. I can tell you, it really looks like it's been through it. You can tell it looks like it used to be clear at one time. But I'm getting a new filter now. This is the new filter. I decided to go ahead and just replace the hose as well. So I'll have new hose on there. So now I have the new fuel filter and fuel switch on there. So while I've got the cover off, I'm going to go ahead and replace the spark plugs. But before I replace the spark plugs, let's take a look. This is the magneto here and here, one for each spark plug. This acts like the coil on your car, for example. It gets its power from this magnet right here. As the flywheel spins around and it passes the magneto when it's spinning at a high speed, that causes an inductive kick, a high voltage that has to go somewhere, a current that has to go somewhere, and the only place it can go is down this wire to the spark plug gap and back to the motor block. So that's where the spark comes from. Now when that magneto comes by, as it goes around, the piston is in the right position for the spark plug to fire, so that makes the timing. Well, let me see if I can get this spark plug wire off. It's on there pretty good. I'll get to it from in here. There it goes. I popped it off from the inside. All right, this is a 5/8 deep well, or a 5/8 inch spark plug socket. Not much clearance in there. There, it's loose. Take it out by hand. Okay, there we go. Got it. So let's take a look at the spark plug. Maybe it'll focus on there. There we go. Oh, look. Yeah, the electrode actually looks to be in very good shape. Electrode's the tip up here that wears off. Well, I don't know what the gap is supposed to be on the new ones, so I'm checking the old ones, the ones that came out, and they're 24 thousandths. So the new one here is actually the same right now. It's at 25 thousandths. Good. So I don't even have to make an adjustment on this one. Always check your spark plug clearance to make sure it's correct, because sometimes in shipping, sometimes when they bounced around, sometimes maybe they get hit on the end and it closes that gap down a little bit. Then you'll have one spark plug that's not firing hot enough. It's cold outside. It's about 37 degrees outside right now. Cold. At least the shop is heated. I just got back from getting some spark plugs. The spark plugs that came with the kit were the wrong ones. They look to be the same, basically. Let me get closer so you can see. This is what came out of the lawnmower. But the biggest difference, and this is what came in the kit. Well, what's the difference? This one requires a 13/16 wrench. This one requires a 5/8 wrench. No big deal, I've got both. But the problem is, you can't fit this through the heat shield to get to the head where this screws in at with a socket. You can screw it in a little bit with your fingers, but you can't get the socket in there. It won't fit through the heat shield and line up with this to be able to tighten it up. So it has to be the 5/8. Yet on the kit, it said it's for my particular type of bore, the RTZ L54 Cub Cadet. They didn't have the exact one that I needed as far as the name brand. It wasn't MTD, but Autolite equivalent is the Autolite 5924. That should work fine. Everything's exactly the same on it. I just have to verify that my gap is 25 thousandths, just like the ones I took out. Spark plugs have this little washer right here. It's not really a washer, it's actually a seal. It's made out of aluminum typically, so it's soft and it compresses down, and it makes sure that you've got a good snug fit in there so no gases can start to pop out or anything like that during the compression, and when the spark plug fires and causes the higher pressure. Well, having the cover off made it a lot easier to see down inside when I was putting the spark plugs back in. So now let me put the cover back on. And remember, there was 7 screws, 4 on the metal, and 3 on the inside that were plastic. Now that I have the filter on there, and this, I can go ahead now and turn the fuel shutoff valve back to the on position. Put the gas line back behind this where it belongs. Hold it in place. So that completes what I need to do in this area. I just need to put this cover on right here and the cover over the air filter. Look at all that. That needs to come out. Boy, it's thick too. Wow, this is so dirty and so packed in. I'm just using a putty knife to be able to scrape all the trash out from underneath the pulleys and under the belts and clean off the top side of the deck. All right, so now I'm going to flip it over since I've basically got this side pretty clean. And that'll give me access to the blades so I can change out the blades. Also, I'll be changing out the front wheels. They wobble out real bad. The blades aren't really in that bad of a shape. So one thing I want to show you here is, look, I just flipped it over. Look how good and clean it is in the deck. Now the blades are in pretty good shape, and that really helps a lot. They're not worn out completely. There's still some lift left on them right there. Now, that's got a big dent in it and stuff. I'll go ahead, I'm gonna change these out for new blades. Keep these as sort of backups in case I mess up a blade. And now I never use the hose washout connections on there. Here's one right here that you see. And on the other side, here's the other one down here. I never use those. Look how clean the deck is. I'm totally impressed. Totally impressed. I never have to clean this deck out. All right, I'm gonna take the blades off. A lot of times these are pretty tight, so I use a pull handle usually with it to break them loose. And the size is 15/16. And because they freely rotate, I'm gonna put a handle in there. Maybe it'll help block it so I can get this one broken loose. The problem is I can't remember if these are right-hand thread or left-hand thread. They're normal. Right-hand thread. No problem. Now on mine, I've got the star in the middle, so that's real important. Let me get one of the new blades. So one thing I want to make sure I do is, after I take one blade off, before I put the next blade on, I want to make sure that it's in the same direction as the others. I don't want to put it in upside down, because I want to make sure that I get them all on there right. There, now I'll do the others. Sometimes you can't break it loose with a pull handle, and you need something a little more forceful. See if I can get this one off with an impact wrench. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get this one at the same time. All right. Impact wrench helped a lot right there. I was starting to strain a little bit. So I go ahead and line them all up at the end for one final check to make sure they're all in the same direction. Well, let me get this wheel off real quick so I can check for the leak in the tire. Yeah, and it's flat now. I'll have to put some air in it, soak it down in some water, check where the leak is, and put a little air in there because it's flat already. Well, it wasn't much of a wash job, but everything came out okay. That's it. At least it looks a little cleaner, and it's had its annual maintenance. When you get ready to use your equipment, make sure you have the proper protections that you need, hearing protection especially. Maybe in your application you need a dust mask, but always make sure you take care of your hearing protection when you're working around equipment, chainsaws, lawnmowers, blowers, your target practicing with your pistol, whatever. Make sure that your ears are protected. So here we go. I've got to cut some grass.